morning and thank you for tuning in. This is 98.3 Mainland FM. It's time for Trends in the Papers, where we talk the trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. We have The Guardian, The Nation, The Punch, and New Telegraph right here with us in the studio. My name is Mobola Sandra. Fuhad Saheed will be joining in via the phone line to give in-depth analysis to the major trending stories across the papers this morning. And of course, we'll be running this up until 8:30, and then by 8:40, we move on to Mainland Focus, where we pick one or two trending stories, put some spotlight on it, and open up the phone line for you to join in on the conversation. Thank you once again for tuning in. Before we move on, let's give salutations to our analysts joining us via the phone line. Good morning, Fuhad.
Yeah, good morning, Sandra.
Yes.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining in. All right, let's start with the Guardian newspaper and the major headline there. Senate presidency negotiations, intense lobbying among contenders as NWC meets. The story is on page 6, but on the front page we have the pictures of some notable candidates, candidates that have indicated interest in becoming
candidate.
Yes. We have Godswill Akpabio, we have Ojus Okalu, we have Adams Oshomole, we have Dave Umahi, we have Barao, we have Lawan. Lawan's
he's still in the race.
That's interesting. All right. We have Ndume, we have Izuna So, we have Musa. So the race is, intensifying. I mean, there are stories of lobbying happening here and there. We have contestants, moving out and speaking with people. But what the report says, we have riders. Now, the rider says, why North may outsmart South. Then we also have Umahi. Southeast deserves number 3 seat. And then we have adopt Northwest for Senate President. Group gives Tinubu condition for second term. Fuhad, I'm sure you know why I am smirking at the word group.
Yeah.
Going from yes, what
we saw a group, yeah.
We saw a group yesterday. All right. So I mean, Fuhad, of course, I mean, this is expected. Or what do you think? What do you think as regards the politics going on as regards Senate, who becomes Senate President, or the major principal offices in the 10th National Assembly?
Well, I think for people who thought that the arrival of the president-elect back to the country was going to put some sort of an end to the politics and politicking going on at the assembly, I'm sure they now understand that national politics is a bit different, or it's completely different from state politics, or how the president-elect somehow is able to decide what happens in Lagos State without any form of resistance or serious opposition. This is serious politics. National politics comes with a lot of interest. And like I said, I think about some days ago, this will also be a major political test for the president-elect. I suspect that at the end of the day, like you and I had a discussion right yesterday, Sandra, they just well stay away from the politics of the National Assembly, composition of the 10th Assembly. Yes, it's going to be involved, but not authoritatively. He may not get himself involved in an authoritative way so as to decide who becomes what. I'm sure he's going to be interested. He's going to get involved, but not so much so to the point where he's going to decide who becomes what in that house. Because again, if you look at the frontline candidates, these are all strong politicians in their own right. Although, Sandra, the situation of the presidential primary taught a lot of us a lot of political lessons. Because from this list, I'm sure there are a lot of pretenders. There are also placeholders. If you understand what I mean, there are people who will step down at the end of the day. So don't be surprised if some of these guys are just there to make the numbers, or are there on some very funny political calculations. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be tough.
All right, but what do you think?
It's going to be tough, yeah.
What do you think as regard now? Two things now. We have in this report that some stakeholders are cautioning the ruling party, especially the president-elect himself, from intervening to a point where there will be a repeat of the Saraki Ekuremadu situation in 2015, where there was a Senate president, or a Senate president emerged without the general consensus approval, let me put it that way, of the party. All right. That's speaking as regards interfering. Now let me put it that way. And also some people are also of the opinion, still from this report, that the northern zone of the country is trying to play a smart game to outwit the southern lawmakers in the contest of the leadership of the upper chamber. Because meanwhile, aspirants from the south have a big hurdle to cross from the rank for the Senate presidency from the north. Because currently, the Senate presidency is, resident in the north, with Ahmed Lawan in Yobe North. All right, but then we also have a slight majority of northern lawmakers, lawmakers elect in the House. So as regards whether or not zoning will play a part in this contest, what do you think?
I doubt if these politicians will allow anything zoning in the composition of the principal officers of the 10th Assembly, because again there have been this play of words. We've been hearing of zoning, we've been hearing of consensus, and I say that, look, I doubt if any of this would play out. It's just going to be, again, my own suspicion and my own prediction, Sandra, is that, look, money is going to play a lot of impact. It will become towards in this 10th Assembly. We're already getting reports of people offering people money, again, allegedly. In fact, some of the reports said that we have aspirants who are offering as high as 1 billion,
1 billion,
per vote. Per vote, yes. We have reports like that already. So I suspect that money is going to play serious, will be very impactful. Yeah, most likely the candidate with the deepest pocket would win this election, would win the Senate presidency. And of course, you're also going to be looking at the numbers, regional numbers. Who has the numbers? Who has the most influence? We've been talking about the senator from Kano State, Senator Barao. That's from the northwest.
Jibrin Barao.
Who has been meeting? He has even gone far ahead of other candidates, really. Because as at almost a month ago, we heard that he had a meeting with 70 senators elect, and somehow they are committed to him.
Yeah, but there seemed to be some sort of cliffhanger on the candidacy of Barao, looking at the fact that Jibrin Barao hails from the northwest, which is the same region of the outgoing president Muhammad Buhari. And then we also have a situation where even the other northern candidates also one way or the other connected. Say, for example, Ahmed Lawan and Ali Undume, both of them are from the same geopolitical zone as the incoming vice president. That's the vice president. Yes. All right. So what, you have all of these intricacies to look at. Do you think it's going to, this contest is? Do you think it's just going to be okay? Well, whoever has the highest, the highest bidder just goes for it.
For every of the candidates, there are issues really that can be put on the table to say, oh, this is why you should not take that position. For Ali Undume and Lawan, really, I suspect that they are not even serious contenders, because again, the vice president elect from the northeast. How then you have a Senate president elect? A Senate president from the northeast. Number 2 and number 3 should not come from the same geopolitical zone ordinarily. But again, the way we think is not the way politicians think. So I'm just saying that for sake of equity, if anything like equity matters to politicians, we wouldn't expect the vice president elect to come from the northeast, and then the Senate president is also coming from the northeast. Then for the northwest, and the only thing for me that would go against the interest of Barao is the fact that he's a Muslim. Because as it is, the president-elect is from the southwest. The president-elect, the vice president-elect from the northeast is from the northwest. And they'll tell you that they've not gotten anything as far as this government is concerned. But the only thing people say is that, look, how do you have a president, vice president, and then Senate president as Muslims? That's the only thing people are saying about the, the ambition of Barao to become Senate president. For Gospel Akpabio, I think he has no issues at all, honestly. Because there are people who think, look, for sake of equity, fairness, these positions should come to the south. And then it could be microzone to either the southeast or the south-south. You know, the southwest is out of the calculation because of the president elect. So, but for the southeast, of course, you have a lot of southeasterners who don't even want Ojus or Kalu. I know, of course, you've seen Ohani's issued statement. You've seen groups on the east issue statements against his ambition. But again, there's a particular senator from Imo State that we should keep our eyes on.
Osita is
people that, again. Osita, yes, he's not a first timer in the Senate. He somehow have been getting information that he also has that influence too. And if the position is zoned to the south and micro-zoned to the southeast, it may well just go to Senator Osita of Imo State. But again, you also have Dave Umar who is giving it a shot. He's a first timer anyway, so that is a bit of a minus for him. He was never a senator. This is the first time he's going to the Senate. And then I'm surprised that somehow the name of Adam Mobola is popping up too.
It's in the mix.
In the mix.
But
like I said, you know, the lessons we learned at the APC primaries, I thought some of us to just wait and see what happens. You know, sometimes you the more you look, the less you see when it comes to politics.
All right, more details on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Let's keep moving now. We also have here Tinubu's $10.8 million London mansion. Buying property under investigation. Risky, lawyers say. All right, so this has been a major talking point all through yesterday when it broke, following the report that the son of the president-elect, Saheed Tinubu, allegedly bought a $10.8 million London mansion that is still under fraud investigation by the federal government. And lawyers are saying doing so portends great risk for the buyer. And this report is coming from Bloomberg, saying Saheed bought the house in 2017 through his firm. Fuhad?
Well, this news broke yesterday. It came from Bloomberg, and I think our local media houses have also reported it. I think Premium Times even did a deeper report.
Yeah, but Fuad, sorry to cut you short. As a real estate expert and all of that, looking at buying properties, I know there's a lot of things that you say people need to look out for before getting properties and all of that, due diligence and co. Now, getting a property that is still under investigation, is it really such a serious issue?
Of course, it's such a serious issue, depending on the investigation that was going on at that time. At that time, the federal government had tried to get an order of forfeiture for some of these properties. But unfortunately, this was not a property that was in Nigeria. It was in the UK. So I guess the legal proceedings or the procedure to get this out forfeited to the federal government had not been concluded. There were some properties already forfeited to the federal government on this same issue of Alice Margaret, the Aluko guy, and all of these other guys under investigation. But this particular one was in the UK. The question is, at that time, what was the status of the property? Was it clear that the property was under investigation? Then to the buyer, as reported in the paper, Saheed Tinubu, they didn't know that the owner, who did he buy from? We need to know. Unfortunately, in all of the reports, from Bloomberg to our local media, all of the reports say that, look, attempts to get Saheed Tinubu to talk about this particular property proved that bought it. They didn't get any response from me, or even his media aid or anybody to say, look, when you were buying this property, were you aware that the owner of the property was under investigation? Because I think in one of the newspapers, it was even reported that the president, President Mobola, even visited Tinubu in the property, I think sometime in 2020 or so, when he visited Tinubu in London. So it would be nice to get Tinubu to say, okay, well, when I bought this property, this is how I bought it. I didn't know who the owner was, or it was from this particular owner. I never knew it was part of the property that was under investigation. So the reality of this case, you see, Sandra, the fact that the property is under investigation does not mean it was procured from the process of fraud. In fact, The people under investigation at that time had actually been set free by a court in Nigeria, although the case is still being appealed by the EFCC. If you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So we have not really been able to get a conviction from this particular thing in terms of prostitution. But what I'm saying is that, look, one of the things that you look out for when you want to buy a property is to know if there are any litigations on that property. You want to know the status of the property. Is there any litigation? Is it under investigation or anything? But again, up till now, none of the papers have been able to say, oh, Saheed Tinubu has come out to say, oh, this was how I got the property. I knew it was under investigation, or this was the person I bought it from. They've not said anything, and it will be nice to hear from them before we can,
move further,
jump into conclusion. But again, it is what it is. The price, again, for me, says a whole lot about the ability of our politicians or their relatives to buy some of these properties. $11 million is not small money.
Well, so help us all. Although the property was bought by a company that's Aranda Overseas Corporation, an offshore company that paid to the Dutch Bank for the property in North London. Although the report is that Saheed Tinubu happens to be the main shareholder of Aranda Overseas Co, and that's why this is now being linked to him. Well, we'll see what as of course, as the story keeps pouring in. More details on page 2 of the Guardian newspaper. Moving on now, we also have here Fintiri hails arrest of fleeing Adamawa wreck 2 weeks after. All right, that is another interesting story that has been going round, and it's still a major talking point right now on the political scene. What we have here now is there are riders to it. IGP, other fingered officials under interrogation. Ari, no regrets announcing Binani as winner. IPAC seeks revisit of Uwe's report as police move to hand over offenders' case files to INEC. All right, so following the arrest of the runaway Adamawa State wreck, Hudu Yunusa Ari, by the police 2 weeks after he controversially announced the results of rerun in Adamawa, the governor of Adamawa, Ahmedu Fintiri, has hailed the arrest as a welcome development, noting it remained an important first step in upholding the rule of law. And this was made known through his Director General of Media and Communications, Solomon Kumanga, also asking the authorities concerned to ensure diligent prosecution of the case to its logical conclusion. What are your thoughts, Fuhad, as regards Fintiri's reaction to the arrest of Yunusa Ari?
Arrest of the fee.
Also putting it, together with, the letter that Yunusa Ari wrote some days ago, or that came out that he supposedly wrote some days ago, that indicted some certain officials as regards that particular election.
Well, again, it's nice that the police already have him. Whether he submitted himself to the police or he was arrested, we don't know. But he's in custody, and I'm sure he's answering questions now. But ultimately, I think his prosecution papers would have to be handed over to INEC if there are grounds for his prosecution, although I believe that there are enough grounds for him to be prosecuted. Really. I think the only reason why the police was called in was that he was missing. Nobody knew his whereabouts, and they needed to keep him out. But I think ultimately INEC would now decide how to go ahead prosecuting now that the police have him. And I'm sure after questioning and interrogation, they'll be handing over his files to INEC for prosecution. So we'll have to wait to see what happens when he's presented before the court to answer questions. Because again, if you breach the law, if you act against the dictates of the law, that in itself is enough grounds for him to be prosecuted. Although he said he has no regrets, but again, people always say that before they appear before a judge. I'm sure when he begins to answer questions in court, when he's cross-examined, and then when maybe a judgment comes, he will know whether he should regret his actions or not. But it's nice that we have him already, because a lot of people feel nothing would happen to him. There are people who say, no, nothing would eventually happen to him. But again, this is a first step to what we are expecting to happen as far as that case is concerned. But we'll continue to keep our eyes on the ball have to see what happens afterwards. But for Kintiri, I don't know. I don't know why he's celebrating. I think we should concentrate more on, because I'm sure that the victory will also be challenged in court. So I think we should just sit back and concentrate more on how and defend the victory in court.
All right, we'll leave that at that. More details on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Let's keep moving. We also have here Sudan crisis. Lawmakers summon Onyema, Dabiri, and Nema officials. And that story is on page 3 of the Guardian. Now, what we have is that the House of Representatives have summoned the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, and also the chairman of Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, that's Abike Dabiri Erewa, and also officials of National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. And this is coming on the heels of hiccups during the evacuation of Nigerians stranded in crisis-ridden Sudan. So the report is for that people are at the Sudan-Egypt border, and due to clearance papers or no clearance papers, they have spent 6 days at the border.
Wow.
Yes, and counting now, and so these officials, these officials have been called forward by the House to explain what exactly is going on and why there is why we have those hiccups and the ongoing difficulties with evacuation efforts of the federal government. Yes.
Well, again, one would think that with $1.2 million, the evacuation process should be better than this. Again, we expected there were going to be 1 or 2 glitches and issues here and there, but not to the point where after evacuating these guys, they will be, kept there for 6 days. Who is taking care of them? How are they eating? Where are they out? What is the condition of these guys in Egypt for the last 6 days? So I agree with the House of Rep. This is part of their oversight function. To call these guys and ask them questions and know what the situation is exactly. But again, if it's about enlisting them from Egypt, because again, we don't know whether it's about immigration issues in Egypt. I think yesterday it was said that they sorted all of that out. The visa issues and all of that. It was even reported that the President Mobola, Buhari, spoke with the president of Egypt, Al-Sisi.
Thank you very much, Fuhad. Yes, thank you so much for bringing that up. Apologies for cutting you, because this report is saying now that some of these difficulties actually flow from interagency rivalry from our own side now, where we have interagency disagreements arising over overlapping mandates. Is my department that is supposed to do this? Is my commission that is supposed to do this? That's part of what the House has detected or has observed from the situation.
We've always talked about duplication of duties, which leads to unnecessary rivalry and overlapping functions. People will tell you up to today, why did we even create that NIDCOM, or what do you call it? Diaspora Commission. Again, it's just, we create these agencies and parastatals, and at the end of the day, they begin to cause unnecessary rivalry and bureaucracy. Ordinarily, that Diaspora Commission is supposed to be a department under the Foreign Affairs Ministry. It can even be just one desk. Just one desk in the Foreign Affairs Ministry. But now we have created a commission now. So you don't be surprised that the Foreign Affairs Ministry and then the Diaspora Commission, and then everybody is fighting on who handles what and how. Something that is supposed to be very simple process and procedure without duty. And ultimately, it's always going to be about money. Who handles money? It's not only the interest of the job. Because if it's about the job, there should not be any duties or quarrel over anything. And that's why some people are saying that we still need to look at the Orosonya report that talks about margin of parastatals and ministry cutting down the size of our civil service. It has become too big, unnecessarily too big. But in all of this, I think ultimately we may have to appeal to the president to rein these guys in. I like that the House of Reps have stepped in as part of their oversight function. But the president also, because they are appointees of the president, needs to step in, give them proper directions and guide on what we expect from them, and also give them some timeline so that we can move these people back to Nigeria. If we have struggled to move them out of trouble in Sudan, how then do we get them stuck in Egypt for 6 days? $1.2 million should be able to do the job, but it's a lot of money that people are even still questioning.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Fuhad. Let's move on now. Still on the Guardian newspaper, we have here crisis rocks Abia Assembly as members impeach Speaker. That's, that's another. I was seeing that on.
That is the main story.
I was seeing that on the TV this morning, and I was like, okay, what's going on? But what we have is that the Speaker of Abia State House of Assembly, Chinedum Orji, was reportedly impeached yesterday by 18 out of 24 members who met in an undisclosed venue outside the State Assembly chamber in Umahia, the state capital. So, in his place, the member representing Umahia East constituency, Chukudi Apugo of the People's Democratic Party, with Oji, was elected as the new speaker. So there's a video that's trended, that is trending online, showed the impeachment session allegedly presided over by the Deputy Speaker Ifeanyi Uchendu, with names and signatures of the 18 members posted online. And now they said there are various, allegations that were brought forward as regards why this was done. All right, but then the House is yet to reconvene. There's a whole lot that's coming on the heels of this, actually, if we're going to look at it. Meanwhile, there are indications that the state governor will actually intervene in the current House crisis. But then what exactly is going on in Abia House of Assembly, Fuad?
Sandra, one would think that after almost 24 years of practicing democracy, the return of democracy from 1999 till date, that there are some things that we will not see again ordinarily, again when it comes to processes and procedures. That, yes, we think we are still learning. We can always give excuses that it's still a very nascent democracy, it's still a very young democracy. But at least in the minimum, there are some behaviors and standards that one would expect that our politicians do not defend you to. The procedure for impeaching a speaker or replacing a speaker in the state assembly is very clear. How do you carry out an impeachment procedure or proceeding in an unknown location, in an undisclosed location, away from the chambers of the state assembly?
Exactly.
These are things. Although ultimately, I'm sure the current speaker or the supposed impeached speaker is going to approach the court. To file this out. Because that's the only thing we can say now. He's probably going to. But again, the tenure of this house is going to end from anytime soon. It's going to end by when a new assembly is reconstituted. But these are things you see from our politicians, and you just wonder really whether we are really ready to really practice this democracy the way it ought to be done. What's the big deal about it? If you want to impeach the speaker, you have the numbers. If, for example, you have the numbers, all you need to do is to start the impeachment proceedings. The first thing is to raise a panel. Allegations are raised, and all of the procedures are followed, and then you put it to voting. And if you have the numbers, the guy is impeached. It's clear before everything is done in the chambers of the state assembly. God knows whether they did it in a hotel now or in the private residence of one of the assembly members. How can this kind of impeachment stand now? Eventually, the court will nullify the impeachment. But I'm sure that they are doing this because they just want to do it, and they know there's really no time for the guy to fight his case in court and return as speaker. So just do what you want to do. And then, again, Sandra, I read that story, and I just shook my head, and I wonder if our politicians are really, really ready to take us to the next level when it comes to really practicing democracy. I don't think they are ready. Because these are things we saw between 1999 and 2007 during the Capital era, where people are impeached, where governors are kidnapped, all manner of shenanigans that we saw. I would thought that we have done that era. But for it to be repeating itself at this time, it tells a lot about our preparedness, to practice democracy the way it ought to be practiced.
So, well, it says a whole lot then, but we'll see how things turn out. I mean, the speaker himself is making statements right now, after all of this. Point 3 FM, this is Nation News. You can join the program. Nation says we have writers here. Unisa Ari gives himself up at Force headquarters, saying I have no regrets. All right. So what we have now is, aside from the rec himself, the two national commissioners, who were, I don't know if they were implicated or they were mentioned. I don't know. In
Mentioned by Harry himself.
mentioned by Ari himself in his letter, are currently being grilled now over their roles in the April 15th supplementary governorship poll fiasco. And so no fewer than 7 others have also been invited by the police for interrogation. So we'll see as this runs its course. Fuhad, would you like to say one or two? Well,
whoever is indicted or who has case to answer would have to go to court, to face the music.
Because according to this report now, the questions for the rec includes likely breach of the peace, impersonation of the returning officer, violation of neutrality oath, and disobedience to law or lawful order. So those are the questions for the rec to answer to. Well, more details on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. We're also looking here at first batch of Nigerians expected from Sudan today, as 1,350 arrive in Port Sudan, 5,500 taken out of Khartoum. House leadership meets ministries and agencies. Story is on page 5. All right. We also have here Wike declares holiday for Tinubu's visit. The president-elect is expected to be in Rivers State for the 3rd and 4th of May. That's today and tomorrow. So there's public holiday in Rivers State as they receive the president-elect in the state. Story is on page 5 of the Nation. Fuhad, do you want to say one or two so we can move on now?
Like one of my colleagues said this morning, if the president-elect is visiting Rivers State and you are declaring today public holiday, what of it be when he's sworn in as president and he's visiting? How many days holiday would we declare? Maybe we'll declare one. I don't know, really. Again, we need to ask ourselves, really, if we are really ready to practice democracy, and then begin to behave like civilized people. Because again, when you commission this, yes, it's good that we have to commend Wike. He's being regarded as the infrastructure, because again, one has to give it to him. He's been doing quite a lot when it comes to infrastructure, But again, I've always questioned this idea of commissioning projects. I was looking at one on TV yesterday, I think in Akwa Ibom State, where the former president was invited to commission projects, and I saw women dancing, dancing all in Ashwebi, doing all manner of things, and then you had the governor feeling so irate, you had the former president with Agbada, everybody pumping up, and I like, for God's sake, you use the taxpayers' money to do, in terms of personal money, can you just open the way for people to use? What's the big deal about the commissioning thing? You know how much would also go into the process of arranging that commissioning. The feeding, the Ashwebi, the people we are going to pay for logistics, security, another huge amount of money will go into that, and public funds wasted. Again, I wouldn't blame the media for collecting money, because to transmit it live too, God knows how much they will pay the media.
But
so you have to commission a road.
What? If they want to transmit here, we'll transmit it.
They must transmit it. It will be carried live now. I'm sure maybe 4 TV stations will take it, or maybe
somebody declared public holiday. You say will not transmit. It's a big deal.
He said he's commissioning the 12th flyover in Rivers State. I think there's a judicial office or something for judicial officers or something like that.
Yes, office complex.
But I think it's a project that can be commissioned within 30 minutes. Just go to the flyover, cut the ribbon, and then go to the judicial complex, cut the ribbon, and that's it.
What?
But again, I'm with you. 30 minutes maximum.
He's proud of his achievements. They allow him show off.
Hey, he can do that within 30 minutes. Stopping people without, again, I don't think they have any serious regard for the civil service anyway, because maybe in their mind they really don't do anything, because they keep declaring public holiday, And I'm sure they're going to destroy private businesses to all of the jamborees that will come with this commission.
All right. Well, He has declared public holiday. Unfortunately, we are not residents of River State.
And I'm sure we are going to hear a lot.
A lot.
From it's going to say a lot. Usually those commissions to say a lot of
this things. Is wiki. It's a very.
That's what I'm saying now.
It's generous with information.
And we will hear a lot. This one.
Well,
this why a lot will come out.
More details on page 5 of the Nation newspaper. Moving on, we also have here the Senate is probing passport renewal and issuance delay. That is on page 4, as Senator Uche Ekwenife of Anambra Central, moved that motion as regards delay in issuance and renewal. Why is it taking months to renew an already made passport? Like, the details are already in the system, and it has to take months before I can have just to reprint.
And you have to do another biometrics. You have to do recapture again.
Yes.
It's not that you are creating a new one. Renewal where your information is already domiciled with them.
Yes, confirmed.
But you still have to go and do the same old thing you did when you are collecting it.
Yes.
So what's
so that's the committee is also asked to probe and look into the reasons for the delay in the issuance and renewal of international passports by the Nigeria Immigration Service. And that story is on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. We also have here 57.4 million BVNs linked to bank accounts, and 7,500 are under watch list. The story is on page 11 of the Nation newspaper. And we also have here, finally, Obi admits making phone call to Oyedepo. My UK airport experience. So the Yes Daddy story is still on, as the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi admitted that he phoned the cleric, Bishop David Oyedepo, but he said he never describes the February 25 presidential election as a religious war. And he was also mentioned as regards, the drama that happened at Heathrow Airport, clarifying that he was never detained. So that's that particular story. Would you like to look into it, Fuhad?
Well, again, when the Yes Daddy, again, quote and unquote now, because that's returned on that particular conversation, when it came out, there have been questions about whether it was doctored or whether it was completely fake and all of that. Recently, Alhaji Lai Mohammed told Obi to come out clear on it, whether the conversation never existed at all, or if it was doctored, what part of that conversation was doctored. Because again, what we had from that conversation, there were parts of it where Mr. Peter Obi said it was a religious war. So one would have been nice for him to have said, look, yes, I had that conversation, but what you out there is fake. That was not the conversation. You understand what I'm saying? To say, okay, yes, I had a conversation with Bishop David Oyedepo. So what's the problem? A lot of these politicians go to clerics, and do all manner of things with religious leaders. So it's not really a problem that he had a conversation with Bishop Oyedepo. The problem was what was in that conversation, and the part where he said it was a religious war. So I expect to explain further by saying that yes, I had a conversation, but that part of that conversation, or the one you have in the domain, is fake. That was not the conversation I had with Bishop David Oyedepo. And then on his UK trip, he was on TV, and I was a bit worried about the text he put up or some of the explanations he gave as to what really happened in UK. Although he said he was held for about 20 minutes, was accorded all the diplomatic respect he was supposed to get and all of that. But there are still a lot of missing links in his explanation, really, as to what really happened. He talked about duplicated identity and all of that. He talked about the fact that he didn't seek for dual citizenship. He had lived there, he left. But again, for me, I just want us to concentrate on serious matters, Sandra. Since he was never arrested, since he's not standing trial for anything, and yes, that the audio has come and gone, Sandra, I'm more interested in what happens to subsidy. I'm more interested in the living standard of Nigerians. I'm more interested in our budget deficit, tangible things too, because it's a chance to come up with all of these things. And I just think we should just allow it to be what it is and focus on real issues affecting Nigerians.
Thank you very much, Fuad. Appreciate more details on page 5 of the Nation newspaper, and that's all we have from the Nation. Still on trends in the papers on mainland 98.3 FM. Let's move on now to the Punch newspaper and the major headline there: Tinubu's victory. Legal battle begins on Monday as tribunal hears petitions. We have riders. APC expresses readiness, says it is aware of hearing date. PDP and Atiku will emerge victorious, legal team tells Nigerians. So for all our listeners who have been asking when the petition tribunal, the presidential petition
Monday.
tribunal, Monday is the day. So let's all sit back, relax, and we'll bring you.
The Lord has made.
Finally, we get to see the top teams, slugging it out in court as regards what's happened or what did not happen, at the general presidential elections. The story is on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Fuad, would like to give your thoughts so we can move on?
No, it's fine. It's fine. The other day, as confirmed by one of the legal counsels of the APC.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll wait to see what happens at the court. I'm sure it's going to be serious legal battle. But like we always say, court cases are not emotion.
Yeah.
It's going to be documentary evidence, the fact that we're able to bring up logic, technicality, and also maybe national interest. And I think eventually the Supreme Court will have a final say.
More details on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Moving on, we also have here a very interesting story. Ogun Rep elect. I'm sorry. Ogun Rep elect and activist clash in traffic over broken car mirror. That's on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. So, a rep elect in Ogun State and an activist, a former commissioner for forestry in Ogun State, Tunji Akinosi, has been accused of attacking a female activist, Abiodun Thomas, after his car allegedly hit a hawker in the Onikan area in Lagos. Oh, this didn't even happen in Ogun State. It happened in Lagos. All right, so
how were the identities disclosed like that?
That's what we have here. So it says here that Akinosi, a member-elect of the House of Representatives from Adodo Ota Federal Constituency of Ogun State, reportedly used his black Prado SUV to brush the hawker. And it was gathered that the female activist, who was in company of some of her colleagues, reportedly waded in and demanded that the former commissioner should be responsible for the victim's medical treatment. So there's a video that it showed an altercation between both of them on the road, on the coast traffic.
Well, they will sort that out. If there was an assault case, the other person can approach the police for to lay a complaint. But I would think at their level, if there's a bit of accident or something, they can always sort that out. That's why insurance papers can take care of these things. But for them to begin to, but again, these things happen when tempers flare up, and then who I am, the kind of thing. But again, I'm wondering how the reporters were able to get the identity, because one would think
almost
that
immediately.
It didn't happen in Ogun, for example.
Exactly.
So maybe it was a who I am situation kind of thing. And then women, they go drag them. Who are you? I'm also an activist.
Well,
I'm sure they'll sort that out.
The story is on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. We also have on the front page here, external debt. Federal government deducts $78 billion naira from state allocations, and that is on page 17. And very, very quickly, the federal government deducted over 78 billion naira from allocation made to states for external debt servicing. And this was according to data from the Federation Account Allocation Committee disbursement reports published by the National Bureau of Statistics. All right. Okay, so the states and the amount that were deducted, you can have it on page 17. Yes, I'm with you.
All right. It's basically, we keep paying these debts, and I keep talking about the fact that some of these monies are deducted as well. It means that the revenue that goes to the state is not going to be. That's why a lot of these states are not even paying salaries, especially for those of them who are not so on how to generate revenue locally, internal revenue. You will find that the resources that come or the allocations that come from the federal government is not really enough for them to pay salaries and even do anything tangible. So when you see governors who would never commission one single project in their state, this is why, because a lot of them borrowed money with their state, they've gone into white elephant projects, and then when the government begins to give money, allocation dwindles, and they are not even able to pay something as simple as paying salary. It's just what it is.
Well, the story is on page 17. Let's move on now. Finally, from the Punch newspaper, deadly noodles. NAFDAC takes probe to factories and markets. The story is on page 27 of the Punch newspaper. I think we finally have some sort of clarity as regards, this noodles story. So NAFDAC has said they're extending their investigation of Indomie noodles to factories and markets following fear of the presence of ethylene oxide, a potential cancer-causing substance, which is in the special chicken flavor of Indomie instant noodles. And according to NAFDAC, they're saying special chicken flavor instant noodles that was recalled by Malaysia and Taiwan is not registered for sale in Nigeria. So they're saying that Indomie noodles is actually on the import prohibition list in Nigeria and is not permitted for importation into the country. Hence why they have a Nigerian production, plant here. The Indomie noodles they have a production plant here in
they produce it locally here
in Lagos. Yes. Okay. But according to this report now, the agency have now begun random sampling of Indomie noodles, including the seasoning, to check for this ethylene oxide. Yeah, that's the report.
You see, Sandra, just maybe 30 seconds. The press officer or the PRO of NAFDAC, I'm sorry, his press release is so confusing. Because again, one of the first things we are taught when you issue press release as a journalist or as a public relations officer is clarity. To the extent that when that press release is read, it is so clear to everybody reading it without them asking further questions. Yesterday we were talking between, are there imported noodles, are there locally Indomie? All I think we needed to know was that, hey, Indomie noodles is produced locally here in Nigeria, and that's the only one that's registered with NAFDAC. It should not be imported. But we are checking for even the ones produced locally to see whether there is ethylene or something in it. So when you write a press release, it's so clear to the person reading it. But go and read that press release again, and it just gets you confused. And even from this report, you can see that there are still questions to ask about what exactly is happening as far as this is concerned. Because for some of us that eat this thing or even give it to our children, there's a bit of worry going on in our minds. The report is not even clear at all what is happening. And I think they should do a better job by making it simple. Clarity is needed here because this is about public safety and the health of the people.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Fuhad. More details on page 27 of the Punch newspaper. Unfortunately, that's all we can take for this morning on trends in the papers. But there are two other major trending stories that we couldn't take, which are the first one is the fact that the bus driver who slammed a bus into a train in Lagos has been remanded. That's one story that we couldn't take, but it's on the front page of The Nation and The Guardian as well. We also weren't able to take the story as regards the Equere Madus. The judgment will be on Friday, May 5. And we have, yes, the reps have written the UK government. We have ECOWAS also writing to the UK government to temper justice with mercy as regards, the Equere Madus case. Those were the two major stories that weren't able to take this morning. But we'll be back by 8:40 for Mainland Focus, where you get to be a part of the conversation. So please stay tuned. This is Mainland 98.3 FM.